Out of some 150 pieces I've done for 60 Minutes, one of my favorites is a story we did called Shark Man. We went there and there was a guy, Mike Rutzen, and he dived with great white sharks. And yeah, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And by the way, I did not know how to dive. I actually got scuba certified in order to go diving with great whites. So when I went with the great whites, that was the first time I'd scuba dived. When you do go to scuba school, you're told don't hold your breath underwater when you're scuba diving. Well, it turns out, according to this guy, Mike Rutzen, sharks don't like the scuba air bubbles. So as I was about to go in, he was like, when they're right in front of you, don't breathe. What he didn't say is, your heart's gonna be beating so fast, it's impossible not to breathe. So this huge, enormous great white shark, 15-foot shark, is right, going right over me and circling around, and my heart is beating out of my chest. And so I'm trying not to breathe, but then I'm, having to gasp and suck, expel more air bubbles than I would normally. And the sharks then get nervous and open their mouths and extend their jaws outside their mouths, which is really not what you want to see in a great white shark.
There's no animal that we fear more and understand less than the great white shark. In part because it's so hard to get near them, studying great whites hasn't been easy. But there is one man who has spent his life getting closer to great whites more often than anyone else. His name is Mike Rutzen, and in South Africa, where he lives, he's known simply as the Shark Man. What he's discovered about these predators will surprise you. Far from being mindless killing machines, Rutzen believes great whites are smart, curious, and not out to kill humans. And as you're about to see, he's willing to risk his life to prove it.
A little bit rusty.
Mike Rutzen is looking for a great white shark he can swim with. That's right, swim with. Before he gets in the water, he needs to find a great white that's both calm and curious, a shark he refers to as a player.
That's a player.
What's a player?
Well, a player is basically the shark that's so relaxed, has a nice personality, woke up on the right side of the reef. And
On the right side of the reef.
Yeah. And the animal's willing to interact with us. It's so curious.
Rutzen says great whites have personalities. They may be the top predator in the sea, but he says they are not the man-eating killers of our nightmares.
How can you tell that's a player?
Look how she's moving. She's checking everything out. Check now, slowly she's going to do this. See how she looks at everything.
Wow, yeah. It's moving very slowly around the boat.
Very slowly. Check, it's going to come and watch the motor now. That's what you want.
So this is a curious shark. You can work with this shark.
This is a player.
This shark and several others have been attracted to Rutzen's boat by chum, a mixture of bait and fish blood. It's believed great whites can smell a single drop of blood from 100 yards away.
My camera.
Now that he's found a player, Rutzen and his cameraman, Mornay Hardenberg, suit up and prepare to do the unthinkable, plunge into bloody water with great white sharks all around.
There's no universities to teach you what these animal social dynamics are and social behavior is. And the only way to find that out is by getting into the water.
Immediately, a curious great white comes straight at Rutzen. His only protection, his camera. Rutzen has figured out that great whites don't like the feel of metal. Good visibility is crucial. The sharks are constantly circling, and Rutzen has to continually turn around so they don't sneak up on him.
They are extremely inquisitive creatures. I like to say they're like little kids in a toy store, and you just tell them, don't touch. Observe, they'll touch.
Problem is, when they get curious, they sometimes bite.
Yes, the animals are not trying to actively kill you, they're trying to outwit you. There's a difference. And you're trying to outwit them again.
So there's a mental battle going on, or a mental game being played between you and the shark.
I believe so, yes.
I mean, that seems like the ultimate test of putting your life on the line.
I would like to think that it's the ultimate trust between the animal and myself.
Rutzen is not a scientist. He was born on a farm and knew nothing about sharks until 20 years ago, when he began working as a fisherman along this rugged coast near Cape Town. These waters are home to the world's highest concentration of great whites.
This is the hotspot in the world for great whites.
A perfect hotspot because it's an ideal feeding ground for great whites. It's not far from the southern tip of Africa where the Atlantic and Indian Oceans meet. The water is rich in nutrients, which attract whales, huge shoals of fish, and seals, some 60,000 of them. Seals are a prime target for great whites. Early one morning, Rutzen takes us to an area called Shark Alley. The seals pass through here searching for food.
There are plenty of fish in the sea. Why are the sharks so interested in the seal?
The reason for that is the blubber. Marine mammals have a blubber layer, and that blubber, whoa, big shark. That blubber layer is extremely energy rich.
Whoa! Oh my God!
That's
Whoa.
what we're talking about.
The sharks leap straight out of the water, stunning the seals before devouring them. Seals are mammals. They're quick, agile, and smart. But as Rutzen has learned, they're no match for the power, speed, and intelligence of the great whites.
They have to outsmart the seal.
If they weren't as smart or smarter than a seal, they wouldn't have eaten.
Watching great whites hunt has become a big business in this part of South Africa. Each year, tens of thousands of tourists flock to the town of Gansbaai. They're offered a close encounter with great whites from the safety of an underwater cage.
That was really something.
Rutzen started his own dive operation 15 years ago. It began as a business, but has become a mission, an effort to learn about great whites and dispel the myths surrounding them.
I think that humans like to fear these animals and not understand these animals.
Each year, as many as 70 million sharks are slaughtered to make shark fin soup, a delicacy in Asia. This undercover footage shows how fins are cut off while the sharks are still alive. Their bodies are thrown back into the sea.
If people can just see these animals for what they really are, I'll be happy, because then they have a chance of survival.
By diving without a cage with the sharks, Rutzen is trying to show that they're a lot more complex animals than previously thought. After every dive, he spends hours reviewing his material, trying to make sense of how the sharks interact with him.
What are you doing with your body here?
The smaller you make your body, the less a threat you are, and then the animals should come closer. The bigger you are, the more threatening you are.
Rutzen believes that the great white is extremely selective about what it eats and insists he is not on their menu as long as he stays calm and shows the shark that he has no fear.
So it's important to stand your ground.
The most important thing is don't chase the animals, don't run away from the animals, stand your ground and keep eye contact with the animal.
Make eye contact with it.
Make eye contact. It's not like a primate. If you're looking at it, it's already lost the element of surprise.
Wow, look at this.
No, see? That you don't see every day. You see the eye?
My God.
People like to think it's this evil black eye of this great whites. Their eyes are actually the color of the bluest sea. It's beautiful. You like blue-eyed blondes? There's a blue eye that you can't match.
I hope you've never complimented a woman by telling her she had eyes as pretty as a great white shark.
No, not yet.
Great whites have been around for millions of years, but they've never been seen mating or giving birth. Their senses are highly developed, but when it comes to touch, Rutzen believes they often rely on their mouths.
So it just uses its mouth to feel you, but that
Yeah.
ends up could be a deadly bite.
Touch is a very important sense for a living animal. So why shouldn't they use that sense?
Rutzen believes most attacks by great whites on humans have been the result of curiosity, not deliberate acts of aggression. Worldwide, there are only about 5 deadly shark attacks each year, a tiny amount considering the millions of people who swim in the ocean. Rutzen says many of us have likely had a positive encounter with a shark without even knowing it.
What do you mean by a positive encounter?
It's where the animal comes to look at you, sees you're not food, it's not really hunting, maybe very curious in what you're doing, look at you for a while, and then move off again. You never know the animal's there, but the animal knows you're there.
And that should tell people what?
It would tell the people that these animals are not out to get us. They're not in our oceans to kill humans.
Rutzen doesn't take tourist diving with sharks without a cage. But we've dived together before, and he offers to take me for an up-close look at the great whites. No cage, no protection. On a perfect calm morning, we head to Shark Alley. We drop anchor, and the chumming begins. It doesn't take long for the sharks to arrive.
I'm reminded of the line in the movie Jaws. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
The fact we have a paramedic on board and an ambulance waiting on shore isn't exactly reassuring.
They've been chumming the water for about 40 minutes now, and there's about 4 or 5 great whites circling the boat, searching for food. There's one in the water right there as we speak. So it's time to start the dive. Mike Rutzen says the most important thing to remember when you're actually underwater with the great whites is to remain calm. It's easier said than done.
Project confidence. That's what Mike Rutzen recommends. I'm not exactly sure how to do that underwater with a wetsuit. Rutzen and cameraman Mornay Hardenberg have been doing this so long, they're relaxed. My pulse is already high.
Okay, how do you feel?
Feel good. Feel good.
Good may be an overstatement.
Just remember, if I get eaten, just keep rolling. Because the only thing more stupid than being eaten would be to be eaten and not have it videotaped.
Rutzen believes the sharks now circling the boat are players, curious and not too aggressive. It's an odd sensation knowing that you're about to jump into blood-filled, shark-infested water. Rutzen goes first, then I take the plunge. Immediately, a 15-foot great white swims straight toward us.
That's a big boy.
Their size and power is awesome. They don't attack, but they want to see what we are and circle us constantly. Up close, you see their razor-sharp teeth and the strength of their bodies. It's terrifying but thrilling to be so close to such a massive predator. Seeing them in their own environment, not grabbing at bait or lunging at seals, gives me a new impression of them. A more complex picture, and that is exactly what Mike Rutzen is hoping for. The current is getting stronger and visibility is deteriorating.
Vehicles are identical in case, just getting dangerous down there.
So we decide it's time to surface.
That's incredible. It's unbelievable. It's terrifying and at the same time just exhilarating, and it's unlike anything else. Wow. And I'm so happy I'm back up. That was great, thank you. That's incredible.
I'm glad I did it, but I'm not sure I'd do it again. As for Mike Rutzen, he continues to push the boundaries. He sometimes even hitches rides on the dorsal fins of great whites. These interactions are stunning, but Rutzen insists he's not being reckless.
The more we work with them, the more careful we are because of the knowledge. It's not that we're getting complacent because we have done it so many times.
You're more careful with them now than you were when you started.
Yes, because we are learning small things of what makes them tick. So we are so careful not to do the wrong thing.
You did say before, though, when we talked that, you expect to die at a young age.
Yeah, well, look at my lifestyle. I smoke too much, I drink too much, and I drive my car very fast.
But so you don't expect to die from a great white?
No, no.
One story that I really pushed to do at 60 Minutes was a story about something called Plumpynut, which is a nutritional peanut paste which has saved tens of millions of lives of children all over the world. You get to meet these extraordinary people. There's a Dr. Milton Tectonitis who we interviewed in that story, who's just done extraordinary work for people all over the world with Doctors Without Borders. And, to be in an award where children are dying and talk to the mothers and the nurses and the doctors who are trying to save them. It's, those are hard stories to watch. They're important and they don't get told very often as much as they should because they impact so many people around the world and they're hard to watch. But to me, it says a lot about 60 Minutes that if you can figure out how to tell that story, they'll do it.
You probably never heard a good news story about malnutrition, but you're about to. Every year, malnutrition kills 5 million children. That's one child every 6 seconds. But now the Nobel Prize-winning relief group Doctors Without Borders says it finally has something that can save millions of these children. It's cheap, easy to make, and even easier to use. So what is this miraculous cure? It's a ready-to-eat, vitamin-enriched concoction called Plumpynut, an unusual name for a food that may just be the most important advance ever to cure and prevent malnutrition.
It's a revolution in nutritional affairs. I mean, this is...
It's a revolution.
It's a revolution.
Dr. Milton Tectonidis is the chief nutritionist for Doctors Without Borders.
Now we have something. It is like an essential medicine. In 3 weeks, we can cure a kid that is looking like they're half dead. We can cure them just like an antibiotic. It's just boom. It's a spectacular response.
It's the equivalent of penicillin, you're saying?
For these kids, for sure.
No kids need it more than these children in Niger, a desperately poor country in West Africa where child malnutrition is so widespread, most mothers have watched at least one of their children die. Why are so many kids dying? Because they can't get the milk, vitamins, and minerals their young bodies need. Mothers in these villages can't produce enough milk themselves and can't afford to buy it. Even if they could, they're unable to store it. There's no electricity, so no refrigeration. Powdered milk is useless because most villagers don't have clean water. Plumpynut was designed to overcome all these obstacles.
Plumpynut is a remarkably simple concoction. It's basically peanut butter, powdered milk, powdered sugar, enriched with vitamins and minerals. It tastes, well, like a peanut butter paste. It's very sweet, and because of that, the kids here can't get enough of it.
The formula was developed by a nutritionist. It doesn't need refrigeration or water or cooking. Mothers simply squeeze out the paste. Many children can even feed themselves. Each serving is the equivalent of a glass of milk and a multivitamin. To see the impact it's having, we drove for 12 hours from Niger's capital to a remote village, where every week Doctors Without Borders hands out Plumpynut. After sleeping in a field under mosquito nets, we awoke at sunrise to find mothers emerging from the fields. Many had walked for hours in the dark along treacherous paths, avoiding scorpions, spiders, and poisonous snakes. Rivers of women flowed into the site, and within minutes there were more than 1,000 of them, all waiting to get packets or tubs of Plumpynut. In a land where plastic bags are a luxury, they carried the Plumpynut home in their scarves, their hands, or simply stacked on top of their heads.
When you see some of these kids, they don't look sick. They don't look malnourished. They don't have bloated bellies or little stick arms.
The ones that we're used to seeing on TV, that's the worst of the worst. It's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole spectrum of malnutrition. And when we go and check these kids, well, they're way off. In height or in weight, they're way off.
Niger has become Plumpynut's proving ground. A daily dose costs about $1. Small factories mix it here and in 3 other African countries. Dr. Tectonidis says other companies could make similar products wherever children need them.
We just have to focus on these areas. We don't have to feed the whole world. We have to go for the jugular. Where are they dying? Where are they wasted? That's where we have to intervene. If you feed them well until they're 2 or 3 years old, it's one. They're healthy, they can get a healthy life. If you miss that window, it's finished. It's finished, it's too late.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
In Niger, most children need help now, during what's called the hunger season, just before the new harvest. Old food supplies have run out, and about all that's left is millet, a basic grain women pound for porridge. But millet doesn't have enough nutrients to keep kids alive. In America, we use it as bird seed. Normally, this children's hospital would have more patients than beds, but now, thanks to Plumpynut, it has empty beds. Dr. Susan Shepard, a pediatrician from Butte, Montana, runs Doctors Without Borders in Niger.
Kids who would have had to have been hospitalized don't have to be hospitalized.
Don't have to be hospitalized anymore. We can treat them at home now.
The reason we can do that is because we can give children Plumpynut here in the ambulatory center, and they take a week's ration home. Moms treat their children at home and come back every week for a weight check.
That's what Sahia Ibrahim has been doing. She's already lost 4 children to malnutrition. Now her 6-month-old twins, Hassana and Husseina, are malnourished, and she's worried they might die too. So she's been coming here for Plumpynut.
Hassana's 6 months old but weighs 7 pounds. That's really what a newborn should weigh.
Right. In the past week, since she started Plumpynut, she's gained a pound. So she's gained, what, 15%.
That's amazing.
While she waited, Sahia asked me to hold one of her twins. Hey. But little Husseina didn't seem to think that was such a good idea. Children are weighed and measured at the distribution sites. They're also examined to make sure they don't have any serious infections. Malnutrition destroys a child's immune system, so they're more susceptible to diseases and less capable of recovering from them.
Often these kids aren't even hungry. It's the opposite. They are anorexic because of the deficiencies they have. They lose their appetite.
That's what happened to Mansour Miku and Marufi Mizzou. Less than a year old, they'd stopped eating and become listless and weak. So weak that when their mothers brought them to get Plumpynut, the nurse put them in a van and sent them straight to the hospital. 3 days later, however, they were smacking their lips on Plumpynut, almost ready to go home.
Have you seen kids who were on the brink of death brought back by Plumpynut?
Oh yeah, for sure. Again and again and again and again.
But not always. Sometimes parents wait too long before bringing their child to doctors. We found Rashida Mamadou in intensive care, barely clinging to life.
Her eyes are open and she's responding with little cries to touch, but she's not awake, which is just another sign that her heart is not able to pump enough blood.
And what's that on her skin?
Malnourished children often have skin lesions.
So her skin is literally peeling away?
That's one of the consequences of malnutrition.
How serious is she? I mean, how serious is her condition?
Very.
Just 2 hours later, Rashida's little heart stopped beating. She was just 19 months old.
She died of severe acute malnutrition
And you see that every day?
every day.
How do you deal with seeing so many kids dying?
Of course, it breaks your heart. It can break your spirit. It can ruin your confidence in your ability to be a good doctor. Yeah, I carry memories of many, many children with me, and I'll carry them with me for my entire life. But you certainly cannot indulge yourself in that kind of sadness. We need to do something about this.
If Plumpynut is the answer, how come kids are still dying?
The answer is getting to kids earlier. Once children are as sick as she is, Plumpynut is not going to save her.
Rashida was buried in a nearby cemetery, where the gravedigger told us he's burying fewer children than he used to. 2 years ago, this region had the highest malnutrition rate in Niger. But now, after widespread use of Plumpynut, it has the lowest. Dr. Shepard told us they'll be able to treat more than 120,000 kids this year, up from just 10,000 3 years ago.
What about peanut allergies?
We just don't see it.
You don't see kids with peanut allergies?
We don't see children with symptoms of allergy. In developing countries, food allergy is not nearly the problem that it is in industrialized countries.
It's hard to imagine a less industrialized country than Niger. On a list of 177 developing countries, the United Nations ranked Niger dead last, least developed. More than 70% of the people don't know how to read. Most work in the fields and earn less than $1 a day. Nomadic goat herders still roam this land. Their children and their kids travel by camel. Goats seem to be the main garbage disposal, but clearly the goats are falling behind. You can still spot a skinny guard dog, but we were told all the cats have been cooked. Here in the countryside, where 85% of the people live, girls start marrying at age 11. By 15, most have wed, and by 16, most have already become mothers. The average woman here gives birth 8 times in her lifetime, but largely because of malnutrition, 1 in 5 of those children will die before they reach the age of 5. Those who survive, half of them will have stunted growth and will never reach full adult height. But now, with Plumpynut, more children are surviving and thriving.
And kids are doing better. Moms say their child's skin is brighter, their appetites are better, and they're less sick. what more could you ask for?
Doctors Without Borders is asking for more of this type of food. Their success in Niger proves, they say, that fortified, ready-to-eat products like Plumpynut save children's lives. Dr. Tectonidis says if the United States and the European Union were willing to spend part of their food aid on this, more companies would start making it.
Even by taking a minuscule proportion of the global food aid budget, they will have huge impact. Huge impact. We're not even asking for billions, but it will solve so much of the underlying useless death. So we got to do that now.
It's useless death.
Wasted life. Just totally wasted life for nothing because they don't have a bit of peanut butter with vitamins. What a waste.
One of my favorite 60 Minutes pieces that I've done, it was a story called Kings of the Congo. Seeing the gorillas in Congo or in Rwanda or in Uganda, it's probably one of the top experiences you can have with an animal in the wild.
It's hard to imagine a more magnificent animal than the mountain gorilla. There are only about 700 of them left on the planet, and so far this year, at least 10 have been shot to death. It's gotten so bad for many of the remaining gorillas that conservationists genuinely fear the entire species might become extinct. They live in Central Africa, in a forest that straddles Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, where a family of gorillas was massacred last summer. Last month, we went to Congo, a desperately poor country, to see why those gorillas were slaughtered, why the surviving gorillas are in jeopardy, and what can be done to save them. They act tough, but mountain gorillas are really gentle giants. Playful, peaceful, and highly intelligent, one of our closest animal relatives. They live in families, each headed by an adult male called a silverback because of its distinctive coloring. Over the years, they've been gradually introduced to people so scientists can study them, taught that people won't hurt them. But this year in Congo, humans have betrayed them. Mountain gorillas are under attack.
They're extremely threatened in Congo. Threatened to the extent that we're worried about the survival of the whole population.
The whole population could
The whole
be wiped out.
population could be destroyed, could be wiped out.
Dr. Emmanuel Demerode heads a nonprofit group called Wildlife Direct, which helps pay the salaries of Congo's park rangers who protect the gorillas. He was with the rangers in July when they made their most gruesome discovery, finding the bodies of 4 gorillas who'd been slaughtered in the dead of night.
It was a terrible, terrible scene to witness. It was our whole lives, everything we were working for, that was shattered in front of us.
And you found a female named Safari first.
Yes. She was quite famous in many ways because she had just had a baby, and we had taken a photo in the days after she was born, and that photo had been, a real symbol of hope for us. And then to find her dead and her baby nowhere to be seen was gutting for all of us.
And she'd been shot?
She'd been shot twice through the chest, and then they'd poured fuel on her and set her alight.
What was the scene like?
There was a very, very strong smell, which for all of us will always remain. It went right through your clothes, it went to the back of your throat. It was everywhere, and it stayed with us physically for days afterwards.
The next day, they found the body of the family's leader, a giant silverback named Sinkwekwe.
We think he may have been shot and then chased into the forest. He had several bullet wounds through his chest.
Had you ever seen anything like that?
No, I hadn't, thankfully. Nothing prepares you for the horror of a whole group that's been massacred.
He calls it the worst day of his life, and so do the park rangers. Augustine Kambale couldn't believe his eyes.
I was thinking that I'm in a dream. And still now, it continued to move in my head.
You still think about it?
Yeah. Still now, I don't understand why people can kill gorillas.
In silence, rangers and villagers made stretchers and hoisted the gorillas onto their shoulders. They wanted, they say, to carry them out like kings.
It's to show people that this animal is very, very important.
You wanted to show the people that you respect them
exactly,
like a king.
Exactly.
So why were these kings assassinated? Simply, it seems, for this: charcoal. More than 1 million people in this area, practically everyone, use charcoal to cook their food. It's made by burning the trees in the gorilla's forest. They cover mounds of wood with mud and set it on fire, turning the ancient trees into brittle bricks of charcoal. You can see the smoke from the air. Rob Muir of the Frankfurt Zoological Society took us for a tour.
They're cutting down the forest and they're smoking it out, basically. And they will continue to move further in, deeper into the forest, cutting down prime habitat.
It's being carried away bag by bag, step by step.
The military, there it is, a train of charcoal carriers. You see it?
Yeah, that's it.
Women carry huge bags of charcoal for miles on their shoulders. Men wheel bigger loads to market on handmade wooden bikes. It's a multi-million-dollar business, illegal but backed by powerful interests, businessmen, soldiers, corrupt government officials, a charcoal mafia. When rangers tried to stop the destruction of the forest, Rob Muir says the charcoal mafia killed the gorillas to warn the rangers to back off.
In June, a female gorilla was found, killed, a bullet to the back of her head, execution style. They want to intimidate and scare the Congolese Wildlife Authority. The message was, if you don't stop, we can kill all the gorillas.
But the rangers refused to stop.
Continued, even upped their campaign to try and dismantle the charcoal production. And then a month later, Rwanda family was decimated. I'm sure the charcoal mafia were behind this.
How do you solve the charcoal problem? They're all using charcoal. They have no other source. How do you get around that?
Provide alternative fuel, butane, for example.
But butane requires special stoves, and buying that equipment for every family would cost tens of millions of dollars.
So it would need to be subsidized. I mean, we desperately need donors, the EU, the World Bank, someone like that to really come in and say, hey, we've got some money here. You know, we appreciate this is urgent. If we don't act now, we could lose the gorillas.
Muir says 2 babies were orphaned this summer when charcoal makers killed their mothers. One baby was found clinging to its dead mother's corpse. The other had been pulled to safety by an older brother, but was starving without its mother's milk. Rangers rescued both orphans, and vets are still trying to nurse them back to health.
Have you ever seen these mountain gorillas as under threat as they are now?
Never, never. I don't think they have ever been as threatened as they are currently today.
Just how threatened? No one knows. Almost 200 mountain gorillas live here in the Congo along the forested slopes of that volcano. The problem is there are more than a half-dozen armed rebel groups fighting government forces in and around those forests, and the rangers who protect the gorillas have had to flee. That means Congo's entire population of mountain gorillas is now left unprotected, and they're caught in the middle of a civil war. So the gorillas right now are cut off. You cannot get to them.
No. They can shoot them, they can be in traps. We can't know the situation of our gorillas.
The gorillas can get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Congo may be a dangerous country for gorillas, but it's even deadlier for people. There's been fighting here for more than 10 years, and more than 100 rangers have been killed. At a ranger's post outside the park, their sign is pockmarked with bullet holes.
Over 300 rebels would surround a patrol post during the night and just shoot it to hell. Heavy artillery, bombing, with no care for human life, and they're after the rangers' equipment. Ammunition, rifles. They see the rangers as a soft target.
So rangers are outnumbered, outgunned?
Completely. Completely. This is probably the most dangerous park on the planet.
So dangerous that all the rangers can do now is gaze at the forest from afar and hope for a ceasefire. But in that same forest, just a few miles from the fighting, across the borders in Rwanda and Uganda, the rest of the mountain gorillas are safe for the moment, though they face yet another threat. There are so few of them that Ebola or some other deadly virus could wipe them out. It's a tough trek to get to Rwanda's gorillas, but it is an extraordinary experience.
We're on our way to a family of 21 gorillas headed by an adult male silverback the park rangers call Agasha. Trackers have already gone up ahead of us and found Agasha's family. They've radioed back the exact location. Now we just have to hike up and find them.
It can take from 20 minutes to 4 hours to find the gorillas. The forest is dense, the trail muddy. As we reach Agasha's family, our guides grunt like gorillas to assure them we come in peace. While it's impossible not to be impressed by the size of the gorillas, Agasha weighs more than 400 pounds, they didn't seem too impressed by us. They spend their days eating bamboo and other plants and the occasional mound of termites. Agasha eats up to 60 pounds a day. He needs the energy. He has 11 adult females in his family and tries to mate with each of them every day to keep them from wandering off. This female is pounding her chest, trying to get Agasha's attention. The silverback seemed unconcerned by our arrival, but he did want to make sure we knew who's boss. Twice, when he thought we'd gotten too close, he charged right past our cameras. Mountain gorillas seem to have a sense of humor and like to stare at those who stare at them. Gorilla see, gorilla do. You're only allowed 1 hour with gorillas to limit their risk of catching a disease. Poachers are another problem. 2 gorillas in this family have lost a hand because of snares. Even in Rwanda, poachers set snares, usually to catch antelope, but gorillas get trapped in them too. A fact which pains our guide, Olivier Nabonamona, who feels that gorillas are a national treasure.
We really love these gorillas because they deserve this right to survive. Also, they bring money in the country. Then it helps in poverty reduction.
In Rwanda, gorilla tourism has created jobs for guides, handicraft makers, and hotel workers. Each visitor pays $500 to see the gorillas. Rwanda will make $6 million from tourists this year. Part of that money goes to villagers who live right next to the park to convince them that protecting the gorillas and the forest can enhance their lives too. The government has installed 10 new water tanks so villagers don't have to walk miles to get clean water. They've also built a new health clinic, new schools, and planted thousands of new trees. But back in Congo, all that's new are the graves of Sinkwekwe and Safari and the other mountain gorillas killed this year. They're buried outside the forest. It's still too deadly for park rangers to return to Congo's side of the forest to find out what's happened to the animals they feel they can talk to.
When you are together them, you will see that they have some sounds.
Do you speak gorilla?
I can speak gorilla.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can.
Yeah, I can.
Speak some gorilla.
Yeah.
Means that there is something which is not going well here.
So much is not going well here. Charcoal, civil war, poachers, disease, and all of it is threatening these gentle giants, these last few kings of Congo.
I've done a number of stories in Africa. One of them was the problem of sexual violence against women in eastern Congo. We called it the war against women. There's an incredible doctor, Dr. Mukwege, who's helped repair women who have been severely brutalized. And it's a shocking story. It's a difficult story for people to see. But I was really proud that 60 Minutes wanted to do it and gave it so much attention.
Right now, there's a war taking place in the heart of Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and more people have died there than in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Darfur combined. You probably haven't heard much about it, but it is the deadliest conflict since World War II. Within the last 10 years, more than 4 million people have died, and the numbers keep rising. As we found when we went there a few months ago, the most frequent targets of this hidden war are women. It is, in fact, a war against women, and the weapon used to destroy them, their families, and whole communities is rape. We want to warn you, some of what you'll see and hear in this report is disturbing. So 6 women were attacked on Friday. Dr. Denis Mukwege is the director of the Panzi Hospital in eastern Congo. In this war against women, his hospital is the front line.
So one of them are here.
One of the latest victims is Sifa Mikatambala. She was raped 2 days ago by soldiers who raided her village.
They just cut her at many places.
With a machete?
Yeah.
Sifa was pregnant, but that didn't stop her rapists. They even cut her at her genitals.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years in Congo, hundreds of thousands of women have been raped, most of them gang raped. The hospital is full of them.
All these women have been raped.
Yeah.
They've all been patients of yours.
Within a week, Dr. Mukwege says this room will be filled with new faces, new victims.
You know, they're in deep pain, but it's not just physical pain. It's psychological pain that you can see. Here at the hospital, we've seen women who've stopped living.
Are all the people you treat adults?
No. There are children. I think the youngest was 3 years old.
3 years old.
And the oldest was 75.
To understand what's happening here, you have to go back more than a decade. When the genocide that claimed nearly 1 million lives in neighboring Rwanda spilled over into Congo. Since then, the Congolese army, foreign-backed rebels, and homegrown militias have been fighting each other over power and this land, which has some of the world's biggest deposits of gold, copper, diamonds, and tin. The United Nations was called in, and today their mission is the largest peacekeeping operation in history. Since 2005, some 17,000 UN troops and personnel have cobbled together a fragile peace. Last year, they oversaw the first democratic election in this country in 40 years. But now all that they've accomplished is at risk. Fighting has broken out once again here in eastern Congo, and the region threatens to slip into all-out war. Each new battle is followed by pillaging and rape. Entire communities are terrorized. Forced to flee their homes, people take whatever they can and walk for miles in the desperate hope of finding food and shelter. Over the last year, more than 500,000 people have been uprooted. A fraction of them make it to these cramped camps where they depend on UN aid to survive. This camp sprang up just 2 months ago. It's already overcrowded, but more people keep arriving. They come here seeking refuge, a safe haven, but the truth is, in Congo, for women, there's no such thing. Even in these supposedly protected camps, women are raped every single day. Has rape almost become the norm here?
I think because of the widespread nature of the war, because there has been so much violence, rape is now on a daily basis, rape is the norm.
Annika van Woudenberg is the senior Congo researcher at Human Rights Watch.
Women get raped in wars all the time. How is it different here?
I think what's different in Congo is the scale and the systematic nature of it. Indeed, as well, the brutality. This is not rape because soldiers have got bored and have nothing to do. It is a way to ensure that communities accept the power and authority of that particular armed group. This is about showing terror. This is about using it as a weapon of war.
It's hard to imagine this war happening in the midst of such breathtaking beauty and abundance. But after decades of dictatorship and corruption, this country is broken. Most of the fighting and the raping takes place in remote areas difficult to get to. We're heading to a place called Walungu. It's an isolated village in the mountains of eastern Congo. For years, there have been armed groups fighting in this region. Thousands of men who emerge from the forest to terrorize villages and steal women. Congo's government seems unable or unwilling to stop them. In the last week alone, there have been 3 attacks in which women have been raped. The youngest victim was just 6 years old. In some villages, as many as 90% of the women have been raped. Men in the villages are usually unarmed and incapable of fighting back. In Walungu, we found 24-year-old Lucien Marohi. She was at home one night with her 2 children and her younger brother when 6 soldiers broke in. They tied her up and began to rape her one by one.
I was lying on the ground, and they gave a flashlight to my younger brother so that he could see them raping me.
They were telling your brother to hold the flashlight?
Yes. They raped me like they were animals, one after another. When the first one finished, they washed me out with water, told me to stand up so the next man could rape me.
She was convinced they'd kill her, just as soldiers had murdered her parents the year before. Instead, they turned to her brother.
They wanted him to rape me, but he refused and told them I cannot do such a thing. I cannot rape my sister. So they took out their knives and stabbed him to death in front of me.
Lucien was then dragged through the forest to the soldiers' camp. She was forced to become their slave and was raped every day for 8 months. All the while, she had no idea where her children were.
Did you know if they were alive or dead?
I was thinking that they had been killed. I didn't think I would find them alive.
Finally, Lucienne escaped. Back in her village, she found her 2 little girls were alive. But she also learned that she was pregnant. She was carrying the child of one of her rapists. Lucienne's husband abandoned her, and that happens to rape survivors all over Congo.
I used to think that when men fled, they were irresponsible. But now I understand things differently. They haven't fled because their wives have been raped, but because they feel they've been raped. They have been traumatized because they couldn't fight back, humiliated, because they weren't able to do anything to protect their wives and children.
When a woman is raped, it's not just her that's raped, it's the entire community that's destroyed.
What is the program here?
Judith Registre is with an organization called Women for Women. They run support groups for survivors of rape.
When they take a woman to rape her, they'll line up the family, they'll line up other members of the communities to actually witness that.
They make them watch.
They make them watch. And so what that means for that particular woman when it's all over is that total shame personally to have been witnessed by so many people as she's being violated.
Many of the women in Dr. Mukwege's hospital are not only blamed for what happened to them, they're shunned because of fears they've contracted HIV, and shunned because their rapes were so violent they can no longer control their bodily functions.
So you're doing about 5 surgeries a day?
Yeah.
Dr. Mukwege's patients often have had objects inserted into their vaginas, broken bottles, bayonets. Some women have even been shot between the legs by their rapists.
Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody shoot a woman inside?
In the beginning, I was asking myself the same question. This is a show of force, of power. It's done to destroy the person. Sex is being used to commit evil. People flee, they become refugees. They can't get help. They become malnourished, and it's disease which finishes them off.
For these women, Dr. Mukwege is both healer and counselor. Dunia Karani is an orphan. She has polio and can't walk, but that didn't stop soldiers from raping her. Now she's pregnant and has no idea how she'll cope.
What do you say to a young girl? What do you tell her about her future?
The most difficult thing is when there is nothing I can do. When I see a 16-year-old, a pretty 16-year-old who's had everything destroyed, and I tell her that I have to give her a colostomy bag. That is difficult.
Despite those difficulties, more often than not, Dr. Mukwege is able to repair the damage to these women's bodies. They see him as a miracle worker, one of the only men they can trust.
She's very happy.
This gives you hope.
Yeah.
It gives you strength to continue.
Yeah.
Strength is something few women in Congo lack. They bear the burdens, farm the fields, and hold the families together. Yet nothing, it seems, is being done to protect them. The war is so widespread that rapes are increasingly being committed by civilians. A few washed-out billboards tell men that rape is wrong, but there's little evidence Congolese officials take the problem seriously. In the prosecutor's office, the complaints pile up. We were told a $10 bribe could get a rape accusation investigated, but few cases ever go to court. We asked the prosecutor to show us the prison to see how many rapists were actually behind bars. But when we got there, we were in for a surprise. The prison had no fences, and the guards had been kicked out. The inmates had taken over the asylum.
The fact is the justice system is on its knees in Congo. I can count on one hand the number of cases that we're aware of that have been brought to trial. Literally here, people get away with rape, they get away with murder. The chances of being arrested are nil.
There may be no justice here, but there are organizations trying to help rape survivors get back on their feet. Women for Women teaches survivors how to make soap. how to cook, skills they can use to earn money. They also learn how to read and write. It is the first time many of these women have ever been in a classroom. It is their chance for a whole new life. Remember Lucien Moroihi? She's jumped at that chance. She hopes to start her own business one day. And that little child she holds, that's the child of one of the soldiers who raped her, one of the men who killed her brother. A baby girl, born a year ago. A baby girl Lucien named Luck.
I named her Luck because I went through many hardships. I could have been killed in the forest, but I got my life back. I have hope.
Hope is not something you'd expect Congo's rape survivors to still cling to, but they do. Each morning in Panzi Hospital, they gather to raise their voices. Our sufferings on earth, they sing, will be relieved in heaven. Relief in Congo, it seems, is just too much to ask for.